All right, good. Who's excited for another day of RootsTech? I am so glad you're here. We have a really special session planned for you today. Jimmer's used to playing in front of pretty raucous crowds, so if you're excited to see Jimmer, make some noise. All right. Looks like you're in the right place. This is a family history conference, after all. So if you haven't already, take a minute, scan the QR code on the screen. Let's see if you're related to the famous Whitney Fredette. So go ahead and scan that. You have permission to get out your phones. And let's do that. Let's see. This is a really cool feature from FamilySearch. They do some really cool things to show you how you're related to famous people. I did this earlier in the week, and I found that I was 9th cousins with Jimmer. So his side of the family got all the basketball skill, obviously. But any first or second cousins here? Jimmer? Okay. Any third cousins? Fourth cousins? All right. This family reunion is not as close. Fifth cousins? Sixth cousins? Okay, we got a fifth, a couple sixth. Seventh cousins? Okay, a couple. Eighth cousins? All right. There's your family. Ninth cousins. All right. Well, this is a big family reunion. It's just a little bit more extended. So without further ado, let's welcome Jimmer and Whitney Fredette to the stage. How's it going?
Good, Tyler. How are you doing?
Glad you guys are here. How's it be at a family history conference?
Oh, it's so fun.
This is
great.
Awesome. This is awesome. Thanks everyone for being here.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
Is really cool.
Let's go ahead and have a seat. Jimmer and Whitney, as you guys think, I'd love to just hear a quick story. When you think family history, is there a story in your family history that comes to mind that you could share with us that's been impactful to you?
There's been a lot of different family history stories from my end. I know that my father is big into family history. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's kind of nailed it down for us. But one of the fun things that I remember him telling me was that we are related to a Farnsworth. The last name is Farnsworth, and he is the man that invented the TV. So you're all welcome for that. But so that was something that's fun. But yeah, obviously love the family history. They have some really great ancestors, and it's really fun to be able to go back and see everyone you're related to. So.
Well, you were definitely the beneficiary of the TV inventor, because we got to see a lot of highlights. Whitney, what about you?
My grandma on my mom's side, through her family history, we've just found some really amazing connections to some American Indians that have lived here, and it's just been really neat to see that. I don't know of any inventions on my side, so I can't, you can't thank me for anything that way, but it's just been cool to see our connections in that way, connections to the country and everything.
So cool. I love it. Well, we're going to have some fun this session. I want to ask you guys some memories that you have about growing up, meeting each other. The theme at RootsTech this year is remember. We believe at FamilySearch that every story deserves to be remembered, and every story is important. So if you're okay with that, I'm going to ask you some questions, try to draw your memories out. As we go, I'm going to show you how FamilySearch tool makes it easy to preserve these family memories and that they'll last forever.
Okay.
So you can kind of see on the screen behind me, FamilySearch allows you to, if you're on FamilySearch.org, you click the memories there in the top menu. You can submit photos, you can do some audio recording for your posterity to remember these cool memories. So we're going to do that as we go. Sound good?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
All right, Jimmer, we've all seen the dazzling three-pointers, the three-pointers you hit from midcourt and beyond. But tell us about, what's your earliest memory of basketball? Some of those foundational memories of basketball. Tell us about those.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've been playing basketball ever since I can remember. My family, my parents were both athletic. My mom's side of the family, her father was a longtime Hall of Fame coach in upstate New York in a small town called Whitehall. So I was just always around sports. And then I had a brother and a sister that were both much older than I was. My brother was 7 years older than I was, and my sister was 9 years older. So I was actually told that I was the mistake of the family. But I told them that I'm the best mistake they ever made. Let's just put it that way. But I was always around my brother, right? And I always wanted to play every sport that he was playing. And his love was for basketball. So I remember being in the backyard, as you can see in the picture. That's my old house that I grew up in. And
your family still lives there
my
today.
family still lives. They don't want to leave. And my brother out there in the backyard. So I remember playing with him. But since he was so much older than me, if I played with his friends, every single time that I would shoot a shot, they'd block it. Every time. And I would get so frustrated. I'd get so mad. I'd be like, stop blocking my shots. And my brother would be like, nope, we're going to keep blocking it every single time. And my mom was like, well, you got to let him play like somewhat, right, and do it. So my brother was like, okay, we made a rule that there's a cement slab in the back of our yard there. And they said, it was a pretty far shot. And they said, if you shot from that distance, that they wouldn't be able to block my shot. So when I was younger, I was like, all right, cool. So I went out and I just practiced from that cement slab every day, just like throwing it up as hard as I could, trying to make it there. Eventually, I started making them when I was like 6 years old. And then at that point, when I got into the game, I was like a weapon. Like I was making it every time. They couldn't block my shot. So everyone wanted me to be on the team after that point, right? But that's where I got my long range from, being able to shoot at a long distance from that age, using my legs and all of that. So that was a fond memory I had.
Well, and I assume...
Thanks.
Thank goodness for that long range.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
I would assume that really helped influence your work ethic, too. Having older brothers, Michael Jordan talked about that, too, growing up, having older brothers to beat up on you. How did that influence your work habits?
For sure. I mean, yeah, he never took it easy on me. But he was always still supportive, right? And that's the one thing about my brother and my sister both. They wanted me to become better, so they would push me and they would work hard, but they wouldn't get to the point where they were mean or they were trying to do too much, right? They were always supportive. And so that was huge. But yes, definitely was always trying to push me to get better. It's like, hey, you can do this better, or let's work on this. And he'd do all these crazy drills with me. I mean, he's very innovative. Let's just say that with the drills that we used to do. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I love it. So that's a great story, and I hope that our team here at FamilySearch has been able to take those photos, upload them to your memories, Jimmer. They're going to live there for your kids and your grandkids for a long time.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's really cool to see. They're already in there. It's amazing.
It's aweswhen Whitney, let's hear about you.
There she is.
Cheerleading is a huge part of your history too, and your past. What are some of your earliest memories?
Yeah, when I was younger, I'll start from the very beginning. When I was little, my dad is a huge BYU fan. I mean, like, our license plates say, I'm for BYU, we're for BYU, and Cougars. We have a dog named Cougar. Like, we're big BYU fans. So when I was 2, I knew all the words to the fight song. It was what my dad woke us up with every morning. And so,
literally,
rise and shout, here we go.
Does.
Yeah, still does. So I just knew I wanted to go to BYU. That was my goal. And then as I got older, I started realizing that I loved cheerleading and that I wanted to do it. And my mom did cheerleading. It was a little different for her than it was for me. It's just such an evolving sport. But I told her, I was like, I think I want to try out at BYU. I think I want to go there. And if I can get in, I want to get in, and then I want to cheer there. So I remember my senior year of high school getting ready to go to BYU and try out for cheer, and I applied to the school, and you find out, I think, in February, around the end of February. So sorry. Can you get it? Thanks.
You're good.
Around this time of the year, and I got my acceptance letter back, and I had been waitlisted. I didn't get accepted to BYU. And devastated. I mean, devastated. It was my only plan. I didn't apply anywhere else. I only applied to BYU. So I told my parents, I guess I'm living at home for the rest of my life and not going to do anything else. But I decided I was going to get a tutor, retake the ACT, and then go try out for cheer and see with my new ACT score if I could finagle my way into the school. So I got a tutor. I retook the ACT. I got a higher score. We came to BYU for cheer tryouts, and my mom and I went to the dean of admissions office, just like on a whim, we'll see. And we show up and he had a cancellation. And we slipped right in, and I hold this really fast. I took my new ACT score and I put it on his desk. And I was like, can you do anything with this? And he was like, I sure can. And okay, looks like you're into the school. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I immediately went down to the Smithfield House for cheer tryouts. And I tried out for the team. There were 2 girls that made it out of 181 girls, and I was lucky to be one of those girls. And I remember celebrating. Oh, thank you, yes. Thanks. I remember celebrating after I found out I made the team with my dad at Legends Grill. And if any of you went to BYU or are familiar with the campus, it's is it in the RB or it's in the Smithfield House? It's like it's like the athletes building.
The athletes center. Yeah.
It's the athletes building. So my dad and I went there for a celebratory meal, and this group of guys walks in, and my dad's like, Whitney. And I'm like, what? And he's like, that kid right there, that's Jimmer Fredette. And I'm like looking at this group of guys, like, which one is he? And he's like, that kid's gonna be the best basketball player BYU's ever seen. And I was like, don't care, I just made the cheer squad, not worried about him. But I remember that so vividly because his name is so bizarre. I was like, Jimmer, what name is that? Who is this guy? And then, yeah, we just immediately, we met shortly thereafter, so. That's my fondest memory of cheerleading, making the team, obviously getting into a school that I love, and such a pivotal moment for me.
I love that story.
Thanks.
Yeah, let's hear it for Whitney.
Thank you. I'll take my OD test then.
We talked about Jimmer's work ethic, but Whitney, tell us about your work ethic to not get in the first time, and then tell us about the support that your family gave as you retook the ACT, you kept practicing, you didn't let go of those dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of my one of my older brothers went to BYU, my other one went to UVU. So both of them were in Provo, and I just knew that it's where I wanted to be. Both of my parents went to BYU. When I found out that I was waitlisted and hadn't been accepted, I remember I was at a friend's house, and my mom called me, and she's like, we got to come up with a plan. You got to come home. We got to figure this out. So I went home, and I sat down at the table with my mom and my dad, and we just talked about where are we going to go from here? What are we going to do? How are we going to make this happen for you? And we just figured out the next few steps. And then, of course, my parents just incredibly supportive and wanted to be there with me every step of the way and helping me. They were both at my cheer tryout. They were standing in the hallway waiting for me when I came out. Just so supportive and helping me with everything every step of the way.
Family is so critical in those moments.
So critical, absolutely.
That's awesome. Jimmer, let's talk. Oh, Whitney, real quick. This is now in your
in my
family
memories.
search.
Yes,
memories.
That's awesome. This is one of my favorite pictures, actually.
Great.
So I'm glad it's in there.
So it's good there for your kids.
It was my computer screen for a long time.
Let's talk about another great photo that I know is in your history. For those of you that were there this night, maybe some of you are on the court. I have a colleague who was here in this picture, and she's like, I'm in there somewhere.
Yes.
You probably hear that a lot, Jimmer.
Oh, yeah.
I do. Yes, absolutely. That was a great picture.
We love this picture. We have it blown up in our basement. It's really cool. We love it.
Let's talk about your career, Jimmer. You go on to win the 2011 Naismith Player of the Year in college basketball, lead BYU on a March Madness run, which hasn't happened since then. As you look back at your career, what's some memories that stand out to you?
Yeah, there's so many great memories that I have, a couple in particular. I remember, one thing that Coach Rose, my coach at BYU, liked to do is he liked to get a game close to the hometown of the seniors that played, right? So just to say thank you so much for being here for 4 years, and we were trying to get it close to their family. And obviously I'm from upstate New York, so it's far ways away, and there's not a whole lot of opportunity to play colleges up there. But somehow, some way, he got a college game to be in my hometown in Glens Falls, New York, which was a super small town. We have a little civic center there that holds about 5,000 people. And we ended up having a game there. We played the University of Vermont. And they were solid, good game, but I remember going there and it was absolutely packed to the brim. People were on the rafters. There was probably 8,000 people, fire code issues, all of the above, right? It just was not supposed to be, but it was an amazing experience to be able to play in front of friends and family. But I will say it's probably one of the only times that you'll see all these BYU fans in the front row with their shirts on drinking alcohol. Because everyone was a BYU fan, but no one was a member of the church where I was. And so it was a little bit interesting, but it was super fun, right? Great memory. Loved it. And then this photo right here was after our San Diego State game that we played at our place, obviously. We're playing against I think they were number 3 in the country at that point. They were an amazing team. We were top 10 as well. It was on national television, and we ended up winning the game. And that was the first and only time that I've experienced a storming of the court. And this was the aftermath of it. They had to pull me back and kind of had security around. It wasn't even real security. There was like the media person and just like random people that kind of pulled me back behind there. And I'm just kind of looking out at this sea of people and just trying to take it all in. And what a cool memory. Just something that, I'll never forget in the Marriott Center.
So going to class the next day, how was that? What was that like?
I don't know if I did go to class the next day. Don't tell my teachers, but I was celebrating the win.
It was true mania, right? It really was.
It kind of changed overnight. Like my life kind of changed overnight at that point, to where now I felt legitimately like a celebrity, like kind of crazy, where all of a sudden I'd go out and I couldn't really go anywhere without tons of people coming up and asking for pictures and autographs. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we were dating at the time, and the basketball managers, they would have me drive my car to the bottom of the Marriott Center, pick him up, and then we would drive out of the Marriott Center, and there would be students waiting in the tunnel, banging on my car windows as we were driving out of the Marriott Center. So that was kind of wild. It was literally like, I don't know, Michael Jackson maybe? Who can we relate to? Maybe not that big.
Me and Michael Jackson about the same level.
Yeah, same level, absolutely. Jimmer doesn't dance that well, but.
I do not. I do not.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that you were dating this time, Whitney, because fast forward, from your Legends Grill conversation, you at least know who Jimmer was here. But I want to hear this next story, this photo. I want to hear from you, especially, because you'll probably tell it a little differently than Jimmer. How did you guys meet? And let's hear this courtship story.
Yeah, so I'm a year younger than him, so I was a freshman when he was a sophomore. And it's a funny relationship. It's not his sister-in-law, but it's his brother-in-law's sister, if that makes sense.
Yep.
She was on the cheer squad with me, and her name is Cammie. And Cammie was my really good friend on the team, and I remember my freshman year, we were traveling to the NCAA tournament, which was in Philadelphia, and you guys played...
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, and did you guys lose in the first round? Not to make it that a sore subject.
Yes, we did. First that year.
So
thanks for bringing it up.
You're welcome. It was just we were only there for one game, but luckily the cheer squad, we got to travel with the basketball team on their charter jet, which was really nice. So we went with them, and I told Cammie, his sister-in-law, I was like, you should introduce me to Jimmer. I think he's cute. Introduce us, and we can meet on the airplane or something. So Cammie, strategically placed us directly behind him on the airplane, and we chatted the whole plane ride, and we played cards, and just had, a really good time, and I thought he was cute and nice, and so we get to our hotel in Philadelphia, and Cammie comes up with the plan that her phone is broken, and I have to get his phone number. Can you believe it? So we pretend that her phone number is dead, and so I get his number, and I text him, and I was like, hey, this is Whitney. Cammie's phone died. Do you guys want to go to dinner tonight? And we went to dinner that night. Somewhere. We have a picture of it.
I went to dinner with Kobe Bryant first, though.
We'll get to that one. Okay, give me a second here. Let's advance this. Actually, I don't know if I see it in here right now.
Maybe it's not in there. Well, we went to dinner that night with a couple of his teammates and a couple of my teammates, and we took a picture. And we went to the Hard Rock Cafe, I think.
So.
Yeah.
I think so.
And it was just fun, and we had such a good time, and so that was kind of the start of our relationship. Honestly, I sort of immediately decided he was boring, and I didn't like him anymore. And so I sort of tried to end the relationship.
She tried to ditch me for a long time. She tried to ditch me for a long time.
Very persistent.
I was very persistent, right?
Yeah.
I'm persistent. I was hard work ethic at basketball, hard work ethic at trying to marry her, and both ended up doing okay.
Yeah.
Do you still think he's boring?
No, actually, he's fun. It took me 3 years to find out he wasn't boring, but now I think he's great.
Yeah, she helped with me a lot, right? She's brought me out of my shell a little bit. learned how to dress a little bit more and actually talk to people in a normal way. So she's done a great job.
Thank you.
Anything else from that story, Jimmer, that you would have told differently, or how do you remember it?
Yeah, no, I think she did a really good job there. It was funny. If you have gone to a BYU game before, most of the cheerleaders are short and blonde, right? And kind of look very similar, right? So you kind of go there but for some reason, obviously she stood out to me. And the one thing that I loved about her is that she's so charismatic, right? So when we did go on dates or we hung out, she just did all the talking, and it was amazing, right? Like I could kind of just sit there and hang out and listen, and then be able to kind of put my 2 cents in when I needed until I felt more comfortable. And yeah, exactly.
I'm like, my throat hurts.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, it was just a great time, and I remember this picture right here after one of our games. It was a breast cancer awareness game. That's why we're wearing some pink for our coach Rose and his cancer struggles. But remember this picture afterwards, and just what a fun time.
That's awesome. I love it. That's a great story to record in FamilySearch, right?
Yeah,
your kids want to know how you met.
Exactly. So fun for our kids.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So it's there in your FamilySearch memories for you. All right, let's transition, Jimmer. After BYU, you graduate, you get drafted by the Sacramento Kings in the NBA.
There we go,
Sacramento.
All right, let's go.
I didn't know they existed. All right, this is good.
We love Sacramento. We loved it. It was a great place.
Great place to live, great place to raise a family for sure.
Yeah.
What was that transition like, going from BYU to the NBA? You've got this photo with Kobe here that I'm dying to hear about, but what was that transition like, and how did you make that?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was such a unique opportunity, obviously get drafted into the NBA, but at that time, my season, for some reason, we had a lockout. So in 2011, so therefore what that means is that, players were basically striking against the league, saying that they needed to be paid more, which sounds weird because they're getting paid crazy ridiculous right now. But that's, they were working. So because of that, we didn't have a traditional off season, which means we didn't have like a summer league that we played in. We couldn't even go to Sacramento where I was drafted and practice in their facility or play against any of the players. So I was still at BYU, just kind of working out on my own and kind of hanging out and preparing and staying with Whitney as long as I could.
Yeah, I was still there. We were just barely engaged.
Yeah, we were just. So it was an interesting start to the career, and then all of a sudden they're like, "All right, season's open," right? And we go back and we have a training camp for like a week, and then we start playing games. And for me, it was such a weird thing because you go from playing, at BYU where there are great basketball players, but then you go to the NBA and it's a whole new level, right? These players are the best players in the world. They're grown men. They're 34, 35. They're long. They're super athletic. They're way more athletic than the players you're playing against in college. So like the speed at which you can get your shot off and dribble and all this stuff is way different. So not having any practice and then going into that is like mind-boggling. You're just like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting. And my first game ever I played was against Kobe Bryant. So that picture right there was literally the first time I ever checked into an NBA game. And I remember he actually wasn't guarding me. He wasn't supposed to be guarding me. So I came into the game and someone else was guarding me. And as I was walking down the court, Kobe was like, "Hey, switch with me." Right? So the guy switched defenders so that Kobe went and guarded me. And as you can see, he kind of like put his forearm like right in my chest and was like, "Welcome to the league." And I was like, "Thanks, Kobe. I guess we're here to play."
Bryant.
Yeah,
Didn't you call him Mr. Bryant?
I blacked out. I don't remember, to be honest with you. Like, it was just what a crazy experience. And all of a sudden, you're just kind of competing against the best in the world. And you just kind of go from there, right? So just a really unbelievable experience, something that I've dreamed about as I was a kid, to be able to make it to that goal and to be able to feel that in the moment was special for sure.
That's awesome. I can't imagine what it would have been like seeing Kobe putting his chest to chest with you. You go on, obviously, to have an illustrious career in the NBA and as well as overseas. You played in Europe and in China most recently. What was What was that experience like in China? I know you tried really hard to assimilate with that culture and fit in, but that's got to be an interesting adjustment too. Where did you find strength and community so far from home?
Yeah, no, it was definitely interesting. Like I had never expected to, even go to China for, or anything like this, and all of a sudden this opportunity comes up where Shanghai Sharks asked me if I wanted to come over and play, and at the time, there's a former NBA player named Yao Ming who played for the Houston Rockets. He was 7'6".
Can't miss him. Can't miss him.
Literally, he's the largest human being I've ever seen in my entire life, and just so kind. But he was the owner of the Sharks at that time, and he called my agent and was like, "Hey, we would love to have Jimmer come over. We know he has NBA experience. We need a guy to come over and kind of lead our young guys." And they weren't very good at the time. They weren't a great team. So he's like, "We need some veteran leadership to come in that's kind of been there, and we need a guy that can score the basketball." And, there was an American coach over there at the time named Brian Gorgon. He talked to me. He's like, "Shanghai, just come over here. You're going to love it. Amazing city, very international, and, we want you to be here." So I get on the plane, and I tell Whitney I'm going to go over to China. And at the time, she was pregnant and, decided to go over to China and play. But the culture it's just different than here, and there's a lot of differences. But what I will say is that the people were amazing. The people were so great to me and to my family. They treated us as if I was one of their own, but partially because I tried to embrace the culture as much as I could. Get to know the people, get to know my teammates, talk to them, even if they couldn't speak great English, try to communicate in any way that I could through a translator or, just through gestures and being kind and putting your arm around them, doing different things like that, right? So trying to build that community over there when I was over there by myself with my teammates, but also people that were around us. And, I know there are members of the church over there, and they do have some branches that are over there that I was able to attend, and that was super helpful for me as well. I met a lot of members of the church that were great people that helped me when I didn't have too many people would invite me over for Christmas, Thanksgiving, and kind of just make it feel like I had a family that was over in Shanghai. So that was awesome.
That's awesome. A few years ago, Leanne Tui from the Blind Side movie that's based on her, she was here at RootsTech, and she talked about, family doesn't always have to look like you. Yeah. It sounds like you had some extended family over there, even if they didn't look like you, that took you in and helped you along your path there.
100%. They were amazing, right? And I think that's something that why I was able to play over there. I played over there for 4 years and with the same team, and that doesn't happen often in China. Usually they're kind of just rolling through players. They like to bring a new guy in, but they wanted me to continue to come, and they still want me to continue to come. They still keep calling me to come over and play for the team, and it was amazing, great community of people, and just an experience that I definitely won't forget, and something that I'm excited to share about with my kids once they get old enough to understand.
That's awesome. And speaking of sharing with your kids, great way to record these stories in the FamilySearch Memories app. You can also do audio recordings. So how cool would that be, in your kids 20, 30 years to be able to show their own kids in your voices, listen to you tell those stories.
That's really cool.
Whitney, I want to hear from you. I can't imagine what this experience would have been like being your first child, pregnancy, without your husband there in another continent.
Yeah.
How did you find strength during this time?
It was an interesting time. When he went over to China, the reason why we picked China over like a European city was because the Chinese basketball season was so short. He only had to be there like September to February or March or something.
It was like a 5-month season at that point. It was very much shorter than Europe, which is like 10 months, actually. It's a really long season in Europe.
So we that's kind of why we picked that. We knew I was pregnant going into it. I went over to China with him for the month of October, and I was there. And I mean, if any of you have had children, you know how sick you are in the beginning. And I just remember all of the food being so bad. And I would just sit there and eat like peanut butter sandwiches. And I was like, blah, blah, I can't do this any longer. And so I was really excited to go home. So I went home in October, and I went to a doctor's appointment, and we found out that my baby was like IUGR, which is intrauterine growth restriction, so she wasn't growing. And that immediately makes you a high-risk pregnancy. You immediately have to, my doctor's like, you're not going back to China. You have to stay here the rest of your pregnancy. And I was like, well, then I just don't get to see him for the next 4 months, because also with basketball, it's not like you can be like, hey, I'm gonna head home for a couple weeks, hope you guys can manage without me. That's not an option. So I told him, it's high risk, my doctor doesn't want me to leave, I'm gonna have to stay here. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I have incredibly supportive parents. We live in Denver, about 15 minutes away from my mom and my dad, and my mom was at my house with me every single day. She was going to my doctor's appointments with me. She was keeping Jimmer filled in on everything that was happening. And I remember when it was getting towards the end of my pregnancy, my doctor was like, let's schedule you to be induced, which was great news, because I could tell Jimmer, I'm getting induced on this day. You can tell your team, you can fly back for the birth. And I think you told your team, and they were like, is there any way you don't have to go? Is there any way to get...
I had been telling him the whole year, I'm going back for this birth. It doesn't matter what's if I'm coming over, I need to put in the contract that I get to leave so that I can come back to see the birth, because obviously it's my first one. It was super important to me to do that. And as it got closer, they were like, are you sure you have to? Because we were the best team in the league, right? All of a sudden, and having the best season that Shanghai's had in a long time. So they're like, please don't go.
It was kind of right at the beginning of their playoffs too. So I remember him having to come home was going to be right at the start of playoffs, and they were like, you can't leave. But he ended up leaving. He flew home, and I was induced on a Thursday morning. I think it was Thursday morning. He had gotten in late Wednesday night. We go in. Again, if you've had children, sometimes it takes a while to have the baby. I didn't have the baby all day Thursday. He has to leave Friday at 2 o'clock, and the baby's not coming. We wake up Friday morning. I'm like, I'm gonna take a shower. Let's start over. I take a shower. My water breaks. We're like, oh, okay, it's gonna happen. He's gonna happen. So we call the doctor in. We're moving along. I have the baby. It's 11:30 a.m. or noon or something. He's there with me, and then I remember my parents coming to pick him up, and this always makes me emotional, but my parents came and picked him up, and they all left. And I remember sitting in that hospital bed with this baby that I was like, who are you? I don't even know you. And everyone just left, and I remember sitting there just feeling so alone and feeling so sad and just oh, how am I gonna do this? And my parents went and dropped him off. And then they came back to me, and my mom stayed at my house with me for the first 2 weeks until he got back, and just helped me navigate new early motherhood. And my dog, she took my dogs on walks for me, did all the things that was just so helpful and so supportive at the time. So special time for us.
Yeah, it was something that was, it was amazing because I was able to be there. I didn't think I would make it right for the birth, and I was going through my head, all right, do I cancel my flight and stay to make sure everything's good? And and then the baby came, Wesley, our oldest, who's 7 now, and it was an amazing experience because we had the baby. I was there for a couple of hours, and then I had to take off. And I was in that car with her dad, and she was driving me to the airport. He was driving me to the airport, and I was just really sad at that point, right? I didn't want to have to leave, but I knew that I also had to go back to play. So it's such a unique experience and different, as a professional athlete, right? I know that players deal with this all the time. They have babies, and it's do they leave and do they not? And for me, it was important to make sure that I was at least there, but I knew I wasn't going to be gone for a super long time after that. We were in the playoffs, and I was able to get back a couple weeks afterwards. But I remember the time. It was crazy because I don't think I slept for 72 hours straight, right? I was up and making sure that everything was good there, and then as soon as we got in, I got on the plane and went right to Shanghai, and I got there at 6 a.m. and I played a game that night as I got there, and it was just I remember after the game,
he had something 98 points in that game, and I'm not exaggerating. He had an unbelievable game.
It was just something that we want to make sure that we have in our memories, because it was a unique experience, and obviously everything turned out okay, but during the it was a difficult time and also an exciting time at the same time. So we're just kind of drained.
I remember you saying, Whitney, and we talked earlier, that after Jimmer left, after that, it was some of the most alone you've ever felt in your life.
Yeah. I just sitting in that hospital bed, I was like, what am I going to do? And then I had to stay the night in the hospital by myself. And looking back, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I remember at the time just being like, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? And I made it. I survived. But it was definitely a hard time, yeah.
Now we have 3 little ones later, and they're all doing great.
They're adorable. We have a QR code, we can put that up on the screen. We're going to give you guys in the audience a chance to ask some questions of Jimmer and Whitney. So when that okay, there it is. Go ahead and scan that QR code. Love to take some of your questions here. And while those roll in, Jimmer, I'll put it up there too. It would be remiss if I didn't get your thoughts on a huge victory that BYU had this week over number 7 Kansas. Anyone watch that game?
Man, great game.
In
Tyler,
Fog Allen Fieldhouse.
why don't you want my thoughts?
What was that?
Why don't you want my thoughts on it?
Yeah.
You're just asking Jimmer fans. Just kidding.
She has great thoughts.
Yeah.
I want yours too, Whitney. Yes.
Thank you.
But, no one goes into Fog Allen Fieldhouse and wins. What are your thoughts on this year's BYU team and how they're playing?
It's been fun to watch them. It's been a really collective group effort by this team, which is awesome. They don't have specific one superstar, right? In one game, it could be Jackson Robinson. The next game, it's Dallin Hall. The next game, it's Spencer, right, or Foose. So they have just a bunch of guys that can beat you. And that's a fun way to play basketball. But also, as the opposing team, it's hard to scout, right? Because there's so many guys that could beat you. It's not like you can just try to take out one guy and then be able to, you're like, if I take out this person, then we're going to win the game, right? That's not the case with this BYU team. So it's so fun to watch. They're mentally tough. They're playing hard together. They love playing for each other. You can tell they're having fun this year. So it's so fun to watch a program continue to build and obviously have had a great season their first year in the Big 12. I mean, I would have loved to have an opportunity to play in the Big 12. What a cool experience playing against all these amazing schools in these arenas like Allen Fieldhouse, right? Like where they basically started basketball, and just really, really fun experience. So I'm hoping for another. I think they play tonight, so hoping for a win tonight, and then hopefully get into the NCAA tournament and have a great run.
That's awesome. Whitney, you agree with that analysis?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, yes. I agree completely. I don't even know what he said, but it sounds good.
There's some good questions we've been having come in. Here's one I thought is interesting. How does your relationship, when you're apart from each other as a professional athlete, how do you make that work in your marriage?
One thing for me that's been huge, and like I said, Whitney has done incredible job in trying to instill this into our family, is communication. Because obviously we're not able to see each other, but we are still able to talk, right? And be able to be on FaceTime and those types of things. So because of that, she's really, really good at telling me everything that's going on in her world. And it makes me feel a little bit more like I'm at least a part of the family or there with the kids, understanding what's going on. So that's been huge, and I've tried to do a better job of telling her details of everything that's been going on in my life, when I'm away. And so communication has been a huge, huge factor in this, to make sure that you're on the same page and continuing to grow the relationship and grow the family. But
one thing Jimmer is really great at this. Obviously, most of our marriage has been really centered on his career, which is great. It's wonderful. We love it. Basketball is amazing. But in the last couple of years, and especially like in the last few months, he does such a great job of making sure that I'm getting an opportunity to do the things that I love and do the things that I want to do. So like when he is home during the off season, I ride horses. If I want to go do my horse showing, he lets me go do that. I am a cheer coach now, so he lets me go do my coaching responsibilities. And so he's just really good at making sure that we both have like time to do the things that we love, and we both have time to just be ourselves and take time for ourselves outside of being with the kids all the time or outside of playing basketball all the time. And so yeah, I think just one thing is making sure that we're really evenly split on making sure we get time for ourselves and doing things that we love.
I love that. That's awesome. There's a couple of questions that we've been getting here. People want to know, what are the things you guys are up to now? What are you still playing internationally? What are your plans individually and as a family?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah, for me, I've been playing some 3x3 basketball, which is unique and interesting. I just started playing it last year. I had a guy reach out to me and asked if that was with Team USA and asked if I wanted to play because it's an Olympic sport now, which is been a lot of fun. So last year I kind of went all over the world to play 3x3 basketball with our team. I mean, we went from Mongolia to Santiago, Chile, to Cebu, Philippines, to Tokyo, to Switzerland, to all over Europe, literally all over the world, which was a unique experience in itself. But because of that, Team USA has been, we've been able to qualify for the 2024 Olympics in Paris. So that's been awesome. So they're gonna pick the team officially, hopefully within the next month or so. I hope to be a part of that. But I'm really excited to do that. So I'm still continuing to do that and play some, and then I have a few other different things and businesses that I work on full time at home now, and starting to feel more like an adult instead of just playing basketball all the time. So it's kind of weird.
How's that for you, Whitney? And now more time together again?
Yeah, no, I mean, this last year with all of the 3-on-3 travel he was gone quite a bit, maybe more than I was like, you're leaving again? Okay.
I wasn't expecting that much.
Yeah, it was a lot of travel,
Yeah.
but it was okay. Obviously, all for a good cause to qualify for the Olympics, which was awesome. But yeah, for me, I just took a job as a cheer coach at a high school back home in Colorado, which has been super fun for me. And we have 3 kids at home and dogs, and we just have so much fun with all of our kids and going to school and going to all of their activities and having him be able to go to things. I think it's funny when people see him at like swim lessons at 11 a.m. They're like, what do you do that allows you to be at swim lessons at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday? So yeah, it's fun. We obviously love having him home, and my kids love him, and he's a great dad and super involved, and my kids just adore him. So we love having him home as much as he can be.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys still got a lot of stuff going on, but
Yeah.
a busy, young, growing family.
Yes.
Of course.
Jimmer and Whitney don't know that this is coming, but this is a family history conference after all, right? So who here would like to hear some cool stories from Jimmer's family history?
Yeah.
I would.
All right. This is pretty cool, right? So, okay, what we're seeing on the screen, Jimmer, this is your family tree. You see you're at the middle there, right? 6 generations out. You can see your parents, your grandparents. As you just look at this, I don't know if you can see it really well, Jimmer, but any names on there that just jump out to you, or a story you've heard about a grandparent or a great-grandparent? And if not, that's okay, we got some.
No, you're good. I have to look and see. Sorry, I couldn't see it, so I had to get up a little bit. That's great. There's my aunt, my grandfather Clint, who I talked about from Whitehall, who is the Hall of Fame coach. And then my dad's side, I think he's done more on his side in the Hauk family. So I see a lot of Hauks up there. But nothing specific of any of these names that I know like any real detail on. So I'd be curious to hear.
Awesome.
So
I'm glad you brought up the Hauk line, because we do want to talk about that. One of I think it's your 3rd great grandmother on your dad's side was a woman named Ursula Caroline Allen. So you can kind of see, we circled her there on the screen. I'm going to put her right in the middle. So there's Ursula's family tree. And if you look back, her line goes back to a man named Thomas French. So I'm going to zoom in here. So here's Thomas French. Thomas was born in Suffolk, England, and he was one of the early colonists in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. We know from records he was a tailor, and he was only the 128th person admitted to the Church of Boston.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
amazing.
incredible.
That's
So one of the earlier founders there.
Seriously, 128, that's amazing.
And not far from where you grew up. You have really deep American roots.
Northeast.
Very much.
Roots
I'm from upstate New York, so I have a lot of upstate and East Coast roots, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
For a lot of us here, it's easy to get back across the pond and trace our ancestry to Germany or England, right? But you have really deep early American roots, which is kind of cool to see.
It is
super cool.
It is super cool.
A little bit more about Thomas here. He had 6 kids. You can kind of see some of them here. His son was named Ephraim, and that's where you come. That's your line. Your family descends through Ephraim to Ursula. But if you look at Mary, his daughter, Thomas's daughter Mary, she also had a pretty big family after she married a man named Robert Smith Jr. and had a son named Samuel Smith. So I'm going to show you this next slide. I want you to watch Mary's line here. You're going to see some famous names that we'll probably all recognize. So we'll let this play. So you see Samuel Smith. You see a man named Asel Smith, the grandfather of Joseph Smith. You see Hiram Smith.
Oh, there they are.
Joseph Fielding Smith, the prophet.
Wow.
All the way down to a person named Melvin Russell Ballard, or to us, better known as President M. Russell Ballard, who's actually being honored at RootsTech today.
Man.
Did you know you were ninth cousins with President Ballard?
No, I did not know
That's
that.
amazing.
I mean, that's incredible. He's one of my favorite apostles of all time. And that's like, I don't know if that's good or bad, because that's big shoes to fill right there. Like, those are prophets and apostles of the church that you're related to. And I mean, yeah, like you said, the East Coast runs deep, and upstate New York, that's unbelievable. I didn't know that.
I heard you had a cool experience.
Yeah, he has a really amazing story about Elder Ballard you should share.
Yeah, let's hear that.
It's really
Yeah,
good.
no, for sure. So, like I said, yeah, Elder Ballard is one of my favorite apostles. So back at BYU, right after that season, I was fortunate enough to be able to go up to the church offices and be able to meet with Elder Ballard. And he brought me into his office with my parents, and we were able to kind of speak, and we talked for probably an hour and a half. And he wanted to make sure that we knew that we had support as I transitioned into the NBA and knew that it was going to be someone who was in the limelight a little bit. He wanted to make sure that I understood that he had my back if I needed anything, and it was just a great conversation. And he was really talking a lot to my mother, who's actually not a member of our church, but she's an amazing lady, and they continue to communicate. But so I fast forward a little bit, as I got into the NBA, that first season in Sacramento when I was there was pretty difficult for me. I started playing, and it wasn't going exactly the way that I wanted it to. I wasn't playing as well as I wanted to. I wasn't playing as much as I wanted to. I was there by myself again. She was still in college. And, it was difficult for me. I had just come from BYU, where I was literally at the top of the world, right? Everyone was praising me. Everyone was like, oh, you're the best. This is amazing. And then all of a sudden you get to the NBA, and now I'm like low of the totem pole, and everyone's saying, hey, what happened to this kid? Why is he not playing? Why is he not playing well? What's wrong with him? Hearing all the scrutiny in the media and just all the stuff that was going on. So it was a difficult time for me, honestly. And I had talked to my parents, I had talked to Whitney about it, but I just felt it was just I didn't know what to do at that point. So I went to practice one day in December, and just like one of those cold days, and I get in practice, and it's just the same thing over and over again. And, just really felt down. Came back into the locker room, and I see that there's a voicemail on my phone. So I get it, and I go to my car after I'm done, listen to the voicemail, and it was Elder Ballard. And I don't even know how he got my number, right? I didn't give him my number or anything like that, like literally. So it was Elder Ballard, and he's like, hey, Jimmer, just was thinking of you. Just want to, if you need anything, give me a call. And as soon as that happened, I gave him a call. And I know that he wasn't expecting what happened for the next hour, because I was just venting to him for like an hour of talking to him about my situation, about what was going on, and just about the things that I was thinking about. And so I was able to talk with him, and he challenged me at that point. He said, Jimmer, I have one thing to ask you. He said, have you been reading your scriptures on a daily basis? And specifically the Book of Mormon on a daily basis. And I told him at that time, I was like, honestly, no, I haven't been. I haven't been reading my scriptures on a day-to-day basis the way that I should. And he's like, I promise you that if you read the Book of Mormon from now until the end of the season, that things will change in your life. And so I did. I did that from December, and the season's over in April, and I read the Book of Mormon from cover to finish. And my situation in basketball did not change, right? Like, I still wasn't playing much. Sometimes I'd play well, sometimes I wouldn't. But everything changed in my life. I was feeling much better. I was much more happy with what was going on. I was much more in tune with the Spirit.
Your
felt
perspective
much
changed.
better. Perspective completely changed. And because of that, it changed my life to this day. So it was amazing for me to understand that the prophets and apostles truly are inspired. He didn't need to call me that day, right? But he, for some reason, somewhere, somehow, felt inspired to call me and knew that it was something that he needed to do. And because of it, it literally changed my life. And I hoped that I was been able to go on and help other people in the same way. But yeah, just an amazing person. And just what a
Now
legacy
you're related
he's
to
left,
him.
So
That's awesome.
thank you, uncle or cousin, Elder Ballard.
That's right. 9th cousins, twice removed to be exact. But what a cool story of how God is aware of you and your family, and how he reaches out to us through prophets and apostles in this case, but other times through ourselves and through family members.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, it was amazing.
Do you want to do one more?
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One more family story. There's one other of your dad's lines. Your great-grandparents, third great-grandparents, were Myron Miller and Zoraida Kingsley. So I'm going to highlight them on your chart, on your tree right here. So there's Myron, there's Zoraida. Myron and Zoraida, they had children, including your second great-grandmother, Melissa Miller Houck. Is that pronounced? Yeah. Houck. So Myron was born in Vermont, and Zoraida was born in New York, as you can kind of tell from their line here. I'm going to show you this record. In the 1850 census, we find Myron and Zoraida living in Whitehall, New York.
Whitehall.
Yeah. All roads lead back to Whitehall. I don't know why, but I swear everyone has a connection with Whitehall.
Yeah, and how
That's
cool
amazing.
for you to be able to go back there, right, and play.
Yes, for sure.
Myron was a farmer. You can see it here. He's listed as a laborer. They had 2 children at this time in the 1850 census. Lucy was 3 years old, and Charles was 1. But if you jump ahead 10 years in the 1860 census, you see they now have 2 other children, Herbert and Hattie, but we don't see Charles listed. So our researchers were kind of wondering what happened in those 10 years, 1850 to 1860, and that led them to a record hint in the New York census, in the 1855 New York census. So here, it's kind of interesting, you don't see Myron listed, but kind of rare, you see Zoraida listed under her maiden name, which is Kingsley, and she was living with her parents at the time. So it's kind of interesting. We don't know exactly why Myron and Zoraida were living apart at this time, but we do know that it wasn't the first time that they had to temporarily be apart from each other. I'm going to show you one more record here. A few short years later, after the 1860 census, where we saw them together, you see this 1863 U.S. Civil War draft registration, where Myron was drafted in the Civil War. And you can see here on his record, right, this was not his first military service. He had actually served in the U.S. Navy in probably what we think in 1855.
Wow.
That would have been when he and Zoraida were separated, while he was not separated, but not
But,
living together
While he was
while he was serving.
Wow.
That's so cool.
That's amazing. I mean, look at these records that they have. Like, that's
that's
incredible
amazing.
that we have access to all that stuff.
And I think the parallel to you and Whitney having to be apart from each other for a time.
Totally.
How do you feel to know your ancestors went through something similar and know what it's like to have your loved one away for a while?
I feel like it just makes you feel like you're not alone. I mean, other people are going through it too, or have gone through it, and are going to go through it, and just so many people can relate to you and can sympathize and empathize with you and your feelings of being alone, and that they're valid and they're totally fine. A lot of people have to do it, and we all make it in the end, and that's so yeah, that's really cool. Love that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's super. I mean, and we talk about it all the time. It's like being away, serving for your country is different than being away playing basketball, right? Like, I know I'm not in
Safe.
any
He's
danger
safe.
of anything. I'm just playing and we're away from each other. Whereas they're putting their life on the line and they couldn't FaceTime each other, right? Like, it's not like they're able to communicate very easily during that time period. So even this is way worse than anything that we have had experienced. But it's interesting to know that there's family that have gone through it, and I wish I could have talked to them about it, during that time period, right?
Absolutely.
Get their perspective.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's why it's so important that we record and do their history and we record our memories so that these things are preserved. And I can't help but think, Whitney, you mentioned that was a lonely time for you when you had your firstborn and Jimmer was in China. And we know that we have help on both sides of the veil, and maybe you had help from these ancestors to get through that time.
100%. Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, that's so great.
I want to show you one more thing, because Myron, finding some of these records, opened up for us another line for your family tree. So let me show you this right here. Before that, these Kingsley ancestors weren't known in your family tree, Jimmer, and so this research added up a whole new generation in FamilySearch for you to do more research.
Perfect.
Wow,
I need to get in there and do that.
that's cool.
My dad and I will take that on. He loves this stuff, so let's do it. That's so
super
great.
cool.
I love it. Let's just end with one question, Jimmer and Whitney, as you now are raising your children and establishing your family dynamics, what advice would you give to people who are looking to build those family traditions rooted in the gospel and build those family connections? What would you share with young families?
I think that one thing for us that we just try to make time for each other, make sure that we are being present in our kids' lives, and having my parents and his parents be present in our kids' lives, and my brothers and their family and their cousins, spending as much time with our immediate family, but also with our extended family, and getting to know those relationships. I still have a grandma who is alive, so my kid's great-grandma who is alive, and we love being able to see her and spend time with her. She was born on Leap Day, so her 88th birthday was just 2 days ago. So it's really amazing for my kids to be able to see her and see what her life has been like. And one thing that she started was scrapbooks. I'm sure a lot of you guys make scrapbooks for your kids or for your grandchildren, and she did that for us. And so I'm doing it for my kids, and I love being able to get pictures of my kids with her so they can look back and see her when they were little and see what she looked like and see what it was like. And so I always just love to create those memories and create those experiences for them where they can be with their family and people that when they're 45, they're not going to remember her because they only knew her when they were 7. So I would love for them to look back and have those memories and have those experiences just like ingrained in their head.
Yeah, for me, one thing I think that we like to focus on too is just having what we always talk about in church is having a gospel-centered home. That's something that's definitely important to us, and it's it starts with praying with the kids and being able to talk with them. And it's not always necessarily, our kids are young, 7, 5, and 18 months, right? So if you just sit there and read scriptures with them, it's not going to go super well, right, at this age. But it's something that we can try to get in the habit of just treating each other the right way, making sure that we have gospel-centered things going on in our homes. And I think that that's super important to build a culture of that in our house when they're there, so they understand how they feel while they're at our home as opposed to maybe other places they may be, and understand the differences. But so that's something that we definitely focus on.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Jimmer and Whitney Fredette.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A quick reminder that the general session is going to start at 11 o'clock. It's Kristen Chenoweth, which I know Whitney is a big fan of. Kristen Chenoweth.
Yeah. They didn't want me to sing Defying Gravity before her, so we'll leave that to her.
If you want to stay around for singing from Whitney, stay in here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Jimmer and Whitney will be in the expo hall later today. They're doing a meet and greet from 12 to 12:45. And then they're doing a basketball shootout with kids who have pre-registered from 12:45 to 1:15. So go break some kids' hearts, Jimmer.
Perfect.
Oh, man, it'll be fun. Let's do it. Have some
Thanks,
fun.
Tyler.
Thank
Thanks,
you, everyone.
guys.
We appreciate
Thanks, you guys.